struck shadows into sound, seeming to be the chimes of freedom flashing. Flashing for the warrior whose strength is not to fight. Flashing for the refugees on the unarmed road of flight. And for each and every underdog soldier in the night. And we gazed upon the chimes of freedom flashing.
Give us that. But today is about announcing, this is 6 weeks to go. This is the time we're excited to build energy. This is to celebrate what we've done so far and get excited about the next. So today is just about enjoying good food, finding good friends, and being excited and remembering why it is that we came here. So this campaign is about the common good. You can see it on a lot of the shirts. That means it takes a lot of people together, and that together we're better as a group than we are individually. And the campaign is going really well. I'll just tell you that kind of stuff up front. We have the right candidate delivering the right message. And we're doing it the right way. Todd, by the time this campaign's over, by the time we get to election, Todd and many of you, we will have either door knocked or called every house in the district. I compare and contrast this. Others would say that Todd happened to, not intentionally, but door knock on his opponent's door one day, and who met him and was not out door knocking. But Todd was, and we will have been every single place. And we have ads on the radio. We have a mailer that just went out. Many of you probably got this weekend. If you didn't, it's going to hit you very shortly. We'll have others coming towards you. We're in the newspaper, and we are trying to be everywhere. And but it's not just, it's the effort, it's the message, and it's the person. All campaigns rest on the work that other people have done before them, and we are very fortunate that our campaign is getting to follow the work that David Bly has done in this district. David served, I'm hitting multiple microphones. David served this district with great integrity and honesty, and the kind of message that we are trying to follow by including people and building the kind of policies and messages that are for everybody and not just the few. And we owe a great deal of thanks to David for his service, and I appreciate that David's going to come say a few words to enthusiastically encourage us for the next 6 weeks of this campaign. So thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Mike. And I'll echo Mike's thank you to all of you for being here today. It's very important for a candidate to know that he's reaching people and that they are responding. And I want to also thank you. I see many familiar faces, and those of you who've helped me in my endeavors to gain election to the Minnesota House, thank you for helping me and helping me get there and trusting me to represent you. I'm getting used to the idea of becoming irrelevant and looking at retirement. I think sometimes about that Mark Twain quote, legislators should be just like babies, changed often and for the same reason. Honestly, the last 4 years have been very difficult because serving in the minority with a fairly hostile Republican majority, a majority that was willing to, not cooperate, not compromise with the governor. In fact, fight him and try to trick him into doing things throughout their efforts. Doing things like continuously changing the rules as we operated in the legislature, and doing things in the dark of night in secret. So we didn't know until they were put before us, looking at 600- and 800-page bills and only having a half an hour to look at them and then vote on them. It's not the way government should work. It's not what we should be doing. In my efforts to represent the district in the last 4 years, I've introduced several progressive kinds of bills and never got a hearing. Things like the Minnesota Health Plan, which would be a universal single payer plan for Minnesota, a state bank like they have in North Dakota, guaranteed living wages and guaranteed job, regenerative agriculture, passenger rail, which some of you know about, and progressive education, which often gets lost. Got no hearings, got no attention. I try to talk to the chairs of committees and they would just push me away. Even if you disagree with some of these ideas, they deserve a hearing. They deserve to be debated and talked about. So it's been discouraging. It's been a rough couple 4 years, couple terms. When we were a majority, the DFL was a majority and faced a Republican governor, we didn't agree with everything that he did. We didn't compromise on everything, but we tried to do what was right for the people of Minnesota. And we did come to conclusions that seemed to work. I don't see that happening today. I don't see that happening in the current legislature. What's the result of that? Well, we got no tax solution to the federal tax reform, got no transportation bill, no reasonable health solutions, no agricultural bill in the last session, undoing environmental protections, delays to pensions, state employee contracts, no higher education bill, only limited K-12 improvements, and the list goes on and on. We could not come together on things, mostly because of the delays that they practiced, pushing things back, not giving any time to negotiate and come together and find a solution that might work, that both sides could agree to. Just a desire to make the governor and government look bad. I'm glad that we have someone running in my place who has similar values to my own. Someone who will try to work to improve the lives of his constituents. You know, a wise person once told me, you can't learn what you don't already know. It kind of sounds a little confusing, but what's meant by that is that when you're teaching someone something, you have to see the world through their eyes. You have to understand where they're coming from. You can't just assume that by telling them something new they haven't heard of, that they understand you. You have to reach it a different way. And I'm confident, knowing Todd, listening to Todd in the pulpit, hearing him talk to other people, listening to what he has to say, that he can be that kind of teacher, that he can listen, that he can understand where people are coming from, look at their paths in life, and understand, and reach them in a way that others can't. So I'm glad to leave the trust that I'm leaving to someone who'll do a great job. Someone who knows that we must talk to each other to get things done. Not that you give in to the other person, that you compromise on everything, you stand for the values that you believe in, but you work to make things better for people. So, I'm confident that looking at Todd's campaign, knowing what it's like to go door to door and talk to people face to face, that he's going to win, and he's going to do a good job as a legislator. So without further ado, here's Todd Lippert.
Thank you, David, and thanks everyone for being here. I just want to say that David's been extremely helpful to me personally as this campaign's been unfolding. He's been a great resource for our team, and I also want to thank David for all that he's given to our state and to our district. So thank you very much. I also want to thank my team. Politics is a team sport, and I have a great team behind me, and I'm extremely grateful to all the work that so many have put in over the course of this campaign. So thank you very much to Mike and Sarah, Matt, and Carolyn, and Carrie, and Jane. Ann worked really hard on putting this together. Kathleen Dorn Norton isn't here, so I thank them. I also want to thank Sarah, my wife Sarah, who has been in every parade and is taking more responsibility in getting the kids to all the things they need to get to. And I'd never gone door knocking before the campaign started, and I was a little nervous as it started, and she said, "I'll go with you." And a couple times when I haven't had someone with me, she's been there with me too. So I want to thank Sarah for that. As Mike said, the theme of this campaign is the common good. And we believe that there are needs that we share in common, whether we are urban or rural, white, black, or brown, whether we are gay or straight, or our families have lived here for generations, or our families are new immigrants. There are needs that we share, like the need for affordable, high-quality health care, the need for fully funded schools, the need for clean water, and a stable climate. These are things that we all need. And we need to find ways to come together and work together to address these challenges that we face. I've been very encouraged by the Wallace Flanagan campaign and very excited about the message of One Minnesota, which suggests that we must be on the same team and we must find ways to come together and pull together. At the heart of why I'm running is my concern for people who live in small towns and rural communities. I grew up in a town of 700 people in Larchwood, Iowa. It's about 5 miles from the Minnesota border. I can stand on my tiptoes and see Minnesota. We had no stoplights in Larchwood, so it was a classic small town environment. I've served as a pastor for 15 years, and I've served intentionally in small towns and rural areas for 9 years in Wisconsin. I've been in Northfield too. And over the last few election cycles, I've been increasingly discouraged by the tone of our politics, and especially by the messages being given to small towns and rural areas. It seems that some politicians and leaders are encouraging us to turn our backs on one another, encouraging urban and rural people to be adversaries rather than to come towards one another and see what we have in common, encouraging us to turn our backs on the immigrant community and communities of color, scapegoating them as the problem that rural communities are facing, when the problems that rural communities are facing are much more complicated than that, and immigrant communities are part of the solution to the economic challenges that we face in rural communities. I've been discouraged by the ways that we are encouraged to be afraid of one another. And make no mistake, in this election, we have a choice. Because there are those leaders who are doubling down on a politics of fear and division, and there are powerful forces behind them, because in the past, it's gotten votes. And when we are divided and afraid of one another, it's more difficult for ordinary people to work together to achieve what we really need. But we have an opportunity to say no to that kind of politics, and to say yes to something else, to a different vision, to one that brings out the best in us. I've been reading U.S. Senator Cory Booker's book. I have to be careful on how you say that. Cory Booker's book, United, finding thoughts on achieving the common good and finding common ground. I thought, oh, I need to read that. That would probably be helpful. And he says this. He says, what's needed now more than anything else are people who are willing to do the difficult work of bridging the gap and healing wounds. That we need to find ways to dismiss the cynicism in our politics and a winner-take-all politics, and instead embrace the more difficult work facing this generation of uniting this country in common cause. I think that's the work we're being invited into. We're being invited into the work of bridging gaps and healing wounds and bringing people together and working towards a different vision for our state and for our country. Out knocking on doors this summer, I rang a doorbell and a woman of color came to the door. And she said to me, I'm from Ghana and I've been in Northfield for 13 years and it's been a great place to live, except for the last year and a half, she said. Because as a woman of color, in the last year and a half, I've received some threatening and insulting comments And my daughter has received some threatening and insulting comments as she's been riding her bike through the park. And I feel nervous going to the grocery store. And I read the news, I follow the news, I know what's going on. I'm from Ghana. I know what corruption in government looks like, and this is how it starts, she said. And I said to her, I'm so sorry that this has been your experience, and this is not the Minnesota that you deserve. And there are others who have a different vision. I have a different vision. Democrats have a different vision of who we are as a state. We see a state where everyone's in and no one's out. We see a state where immigrants belong. We see a state where people of color, the LGBT community, belongs. We see a state where rural people belong. And we're bridging gaps, and we're working together, we're finding ways to come together, to see ourselves in one another, and to recognize the challenges that we share together. That's the vision that we see, the one that we're working towards. And as we start coming together, we will start addressing the problems that we face. Coming together, we will push back against a healthcare marketplace that is out of control. It's out of control. And we will offer real solutions, like allowing people to buy into Minnesota Care and making sure that everyone has access to insurance that's actually insurance. And coming together, we will make sure that our schools are fully funded and safe, so that no matter who you are, as a child, when you walk into a school anywhere in the state, that you have the opportunities that you need to succeed. Coming together, we will find a path towards common sense legislation for firearms, because we need this legislation for our safety. It's something that it's a need we have in common. Coming together, we will respond to our ecological crises. We will keep our water clean. We will respond to climate change at a state level and discover the economic opportunities that are there when we do that. Now, we have more in common than we think. There's more that unites us than divides us. And I've been hearing that as I've been knocking on doors throughout the district. In Lonsdale, in Montgomery, in Heidelberg, in Kilkenny Township, throughout Northfield. I've been hearing the needs that we share, and I'm hopeful. I've been knocking doors with college students and elders and seeing how much they care about our country right now. I'm very hopeful. And we need a hopeful people engaged in our politics this fall. Are you with me? So let's go out and win this race and other races for the common good. Thank you.